friends, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Abby and I like to talk about spooky things. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you 15 terrifying ghost story TikToks. If you guys like this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up, click the subscribe button down below, and turn on post notifications so you will never miss a video. I post every Sunday and sometimes Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m. Central Time. Please check out my Instagram and TikTok where I do special effects makeup over there. And without further ado, let's get right on into the video. Our first TikTok's for the user, The Green Manor, who shows us her house and things that appear to be off.
I come upstairs, weird smell. Smells like perfume. Something that I don't wear. I know what my perfumes smell like. No one's been up here for like 3 or 4 days, except me, obviously. I hear weird noise in the kitchen. I come in the kitchen. What's that noise? I don't know. I investigate. Door ajar. Why is the door ajar? I don't touch this door. No one's been up here except for myself for like 3 or 4 days. And I know it was closed the last time I came up here. Also, oh, it's raining. We have a Ring camera. We actually have cameras all over our house. Camera has caught nothing. No motion detected. Okay. Weird noise in kitchen. Still happening. Dolls. Accounted for. Attic. Locked. I haven't been up there in like probably over a week because it's been freaking me out. Vibes in the living room. Weird. Weird noise in kitchen. Freaking me out. Office. Always hearing a knocking sound. Of course, it's probably not going to do it now that I'm in here. But every time I come into this area, I always hear a knocking sound. Door ajar. This is a closet that leads to another room. I always keep it wide open. Keep every door up in this bitch open. Creepy jewelry box that likes to play on its own. Closed. Thank God. But also not playing when it opens. Which, oh, okay, there it is. Thank you. Vibes. Off. Very off.
To me, the most alarming thing is the fact that that door is just ajar. Unlocked, ajar. That is horrifying to me. I think paranormal activity to me is the scariest when it starts affecting things like your doors being securely closed, your stove being off. It's like it adds an extra level of danger and fear to the whole thing, and that's what scares me the most about paranormal activity, is the possibility of things like that happening. But it's so interesting that she's just like walking us through the house and telling us what's off and what's normal. And I think it all just stemmed from this experience of walking into a room and smelling a perfume that she did not recognize as hers. It is for sure a lovely home, but also the vibes feel haunted. Like, just the way it's decorated, I don't know how to put it, but it makes sense that it's haunted almost. The decor is giving haunted home. And it's funny because in the comments someone pointed that out and she said that she was like working on redecorating. But the commenter was absolutely right, because I was thinking this whole video like, it looks kind of eerie in there. It's a cute house, but it looks kind of eerie. And I think it's just the way it's decorated adds to the whole ambiance of scariness. The next 5 TikToks I'm going to show you are by the user Liara Eliza. She tells us about a haunted home that her and her parents moved into when she was a teenager. The first 2 TikToks from this series that I am going to show you includes a little bit of a backstory about moving into the home and an overview of the activity that happened in her room.
Hi friends, my name is Liara and I lived in my own horror movie for 3 years. I want to get into part 1 of that story. I also wanted to say thank you so much to anybody that commented or liked that video or followed me because of it. The fact that people care about what I have to say at all about anything means so much to me, honestly. So, like, it made me so happy. So thank you so, so much. If you like ghost stories, the paranormal, the unexplained, anything like that, give me a follow. I'm going to get into this story. It's not all my TikTok is about, but it's definitely going to be my main focus for a little bit. If you like it, stick around. I want to give, though, as part of part 1, I want to just give a tiny bit of backstory real quick. I feel like it's important just to kind of set the scene. And it just kind of, it adds to the story. So, and then I'm going to start with kind of like the small things, the red flags that were missed, the small things, and then how they progressed into the big things. The big things, like I said, I'm going to kind of do like story times with those for sure as well. But to start off, so until I was 11, we lived in the house I was born in. I have 2 older sisters and 2 parents, and we lived in that house. Everything was great. Nothing weird ever happened there, whatever. We moved out when I was 11, and we moved into a super, super tiny apartment, and it was above my grandparents. So for that reason, I loved it because I could run down and hang out with my grandparents, but it was too small for us. Now, at this time, my older sisters had both moved out, so they weren't in the house. So the apartment was just me and my parents, but it was definitely too small for the 3 of us. So once the lease was up, we needed to leave. Now, this was like 2006 or 7, I think 2007. Money was tight. The recession was about to pop up. So we needed something really fast. And lo and behold, we find this huge house that is dirt cheap to rent per month. First missed red flag. Why was it so cheap? Didn't really need any repairs. It was a nice house. I mean, it was weird. Now, here's the biggest thing about that house is it is a church parsonage. I'm going to make a video too. I want to show you guys pictures, and I also want to go down to the house itself. I live literally 4 minutes away from it, and I want to film so I can tell you guys stories and kind of show you, like, because one involves a window, something that we saw from outside. I want to show you guys that window so you can really see like what I'm talking about. But anyway, we go to look at the house, and first immediate red flag. The upstairs is much dirtier, like dustier and everything than the downstairs is. And my mom or dad mentioned something about it to the person that was showing us the house. And they were like, sorry, I got a weird back cramp. And they were like, oh, the guy who lived here before barricaded the stairs and never went upstairs. Now there's 2 bathrooms in the house, but there's only one with a shower, and that's upstairs. So the downstairs bathroom only has a toilet and a sink. So he went to the lengths to not go upstairs, that he would go other places to take a shower. Why we thought that was normal is beyond me. It makes perfect sense in hindsight because most of the terrifying, awful things happened upstairs. So, I mean, I get it. I'm so curious what he saw to eventually get him to that point, but I can take a wild guess. So anyhow, first missed red flag. Other guy never went upstairs. Second red flag, my dad and I are walking up into the attic, and so you walk up, it's like 4 steps, and then like a little kind of cubby on the side. You can open up a door, a person would fit in there, but you know, it's kind of small, whatever. I don't know why I said a person, that sounded creepy. But anyway, then you turn, you're on a little landing, and then you go further up the stairs. But in between the stairs here, there's like a slanted wall. So if you were coming down the stairs or up the stairs, you could jump onto this slanted wall. Why you would do that, though, I have no clue. But there were like shoe prints in the dirt, like sliding down this wall. Now, that could be explained, I suppose. Somebody could have been painting. That's about the only reason I can imagine you would be on that little wall, though. There's not another good reason. So that was bizarre. We get up into the attic, and there's 4 rooms in the attic. So there's one right in front of you, one right beside that, one down this hall, and one down this hall. Now, the one that would have been right to our left had a big window in it, and it looks out onto the street. The people that were showing us the house told us that nothing was left there, that they had checked it, nobody left belongings, nothing. Absolutely nothing, 0 belongings. There was a rocking chair, like right in front of this window. Now, again, I guess that's not super weird, although it is weird to me because there's multiple windows in the house. Like, why are you looking out the attic one? But regardless, it also explainable. But the rocking chair was like weird. We kind of looked at each other like, okay. That's about it with the attic. We then go down to the basement. This is where I know for a fact, like, we both felt something and we didn't say it to each other. But I remember looking at my dad, and now my dad, here's some backstory. He was a preacher at the time. He is not scared of anything, really. He's like the toughest, bravest guy I know. And we walked down these basement stairs, and I will never be able to put into words the feeling that I felt walking down those stairs. It was like this heaviness that I could physically feel my chest getting tighter, and like I can almost feel it as I'm describing it right now. And just like the air almost being sucked out of my lungs each step I went down. And we get to the bottom, and I kind of look at my dad, and I was like, it's kind of creepy down here. And he was like, mm-hmm. And when he doesn't say much, I know it's because something's going on in his head. There's like 7 rooms in this basement, and it is horrifying. The one room that has the washer and the dryer in it has clearly, like, at one time had bunk beds on the wall, almost the whole way to the ceiling, then to the floor. No mattresses or anything, but you could tell that's what it was. I have no clue who was sleeping down there or why. Then the other rooms, there was not much in them, but still, you know, we had this horrible feeling. And then we go into the last room, and there's one of those bricks. You know, when a building is built, or in this case, a house, and they'll put like one of those bricks or like stones in there that says the year. We see one of those, and it's in the wall, and says, I need to look it up. I think 1862, but I want to be sure, so I will look that up. So we see one of those, and then right under it is this hole in the floor. And we look, and we can see like water in it. So my dad grabs a stick. Conveniently, there's like a big like stick in the corner of the room, and he's like putting it down through, and it's not ending. It's just never ending. And he pulls it back up, and there's just like dark water just kind of dripping. And we're just looking at each other, and I could tell he knew he needed to say something to comfort me, because I'm like, what the actual helly is going on? He was like, I'll have to look into that. So many red flags that were missed. But regardless, I loved all of the space. I'm becoming a teenager. I want to have friends over. I want my own space. You know, I need it. We needed something fast. My mom had a lot of doubts. My mom kept saying, I have a bad feeling about this. She was so valid and so right to have those feelings, and we really should have listened to her, but we did not. After a few weeks, we packed up. Now, here's the crazy thing too. I don't remember moving in there. I just remember, boom, we're there. So I think that's where I'm going to leave this off for now. Once I get to part 2, we will start with being in the house once we are moved in, the things that started to happen and kind of how they progressed. If anybody has any questions at all, feel free to ask me. I'm an open book. I do not care. I will answer pretty much anything. And again, thank you for being here. I will probably put up part 2 tonight, tomorrow at the latest. All right, thank you. Bye. All right, guys, it's Liera, and you are back for part 2 of how I lived my own horror story for 3 years. I look a complete mess. Ignore my hair, please, begging you. It'll get fixed soon. Anyhow, so where we left off, we had just officially moved into the house. Now, I would say for about 3 weeks, probably 3 weeks to a month, nothing happened. Nothing major happened. What I will say, though, is from the moment I stepped in that house until the day that I left that house for good, I never, ever, ever felt alone. I constantly felt like I was being watched. The amount of times I'd be like looking over my shoulder, looking around, thinking I like heard something behind me. And you know when like, sorry, a freaking telemarketer called me. Anyway, so you know when somebody walks up to you and they, you can like feel like warmth from them, or like the air of them like moving? That would happen to me all the time. And sometimes it would be freezing cold air though. Sometimes it was warm, sometimes it was freezing cold. And it constantly felt like somebody just like walked up and like was watching me, was with me. Turns out my parents always felt that too. They just didn't tell me, but they felt the exact same way. So that went on for a few weeks. And then the very first thing, I will never forget, the very first thing that happened, the room that I had moved into was huge, and it scared me at night. It was so dark. It was so big. I couldn't see. My bed was towards the front of the room, and there was a bunch of rooms still behind me. It's kind of like L-shaped like this, a wall. My bed was right along that wall, and then the rest of the room was behind me, where the closet was, dresser, all of that. So it scared me. It was expansive, and I was used to a very small space. At this point, I never really had cable. I didn't watch much TV, but I begged my parents, can I please have a TV in my room? And they were like super anti-TV in the room. But I was like, I just need the light, the sound, something to make me feel like I'm not alone in there, or, whatever. My dad finds this old TV, and it's like tiny and whatever, but he's like, you can have this in your room. It had like 3 channels on it, and they were news channels, as far as I knew. It always just seemed like the news. So couple nights with the TV, everything was fine. And then probably on the 3rd or 4th night of having the TV, I was in a dead sleep, and I wake up because mass, like Catholic mass music is blaring on this TV, on a channel I did not know existed. And it was like a funeral, and they were singing. Now, I did go to Catholic school, and I'm not super familiar with Catholicism, so I don't know like what they were saying, but it was like, like the repetitive, like monotone little things, but it was blaring. I did not know this TV got that loud. So I get up, and I'm like trying to turn it down. And it's not turning down. I'm like, what is going on? And then boom, the TV just shuts off. I got the sickest feeling in my stomach. It really didn't sit right with me. I was like, what in the world was that? Sorry, I get anxious talking about this. But I told my parents in the morning, and they were like, what's an old TV? Like, it's going to do weird stuff. So I'm like, okay. That situation ended up happening until I finally just got rid of that TV for good. It happened for months. I would just wake up randomly, and that station would be blaring. I could never find that station. When I would try to go through the channels, so there was like 4 of them. Like I said, there was like 3 or 4 of them. I couldn't find that channel. But somehow, right around 3 a.m., every single night, it would blare. Unsure. But I chalked it up to, it's an old TV. Next situation that I remember happening all the time. Now, remember, this was like 2007, 2008, so we still use stereos. And I had a big stereo, and to turn the volume up and down on it, you literally had to turn a knob on the front of it. That's the only way you could turn it up and down. And I would be getting ready and have my stereo on, and it would just start to blare. Then it would just go way down. Then it would blare. Then it would go way down. Then it would be back to normal. And I didn't think much about it the first few times that it happened. And then I looked back the one time, and I didn't see the knob moving, but I did see the numbers going up. So it would be like 41, 42, 43, like volume-wise, and then go back down. So the numbers were moving somehow. And I tell my parents, well, it's an old stereo. So, again, excuses were made. The third thing that I remember happening, and keep in mind, this is in like a 2 to 3 month period. So this is happening like back to back to back. Every day it's getting worse, and I'm getting more and more scared every single day. I really want to find you guys pictures of the inside of the house, because I wish you could like picture what I'm saying about my room, but it's kind of hard to explain. I'll try. I'll see what I can do. So one night I am asleep, and I'm in my bed, and like I said, there's all the room behind me, the bed's here, the door's like kind of right at my feet. And by this point, I didn't have the TV anymore, so I was still scared of the dark. So I would sleep with my door about halfway open, which I had never done before. My parents are like, fire safety, you should keep the door closed when you're asleep, but I had to keep it halfway open. I needed some light from the hallway to come in. It was the only way I could fall asleep at that point. So I'm in a dead sleep, and when you're about to fall asleep and then you have that like feeling like you just fell, and it like jolts you awake. I had that, but instead of feeling like I was falling, it sounded like somebody screamed, "Hey," really loud, but it was like it came from my head almost. It's hard to explain it. Like, it didn't feel like it was somebody in the room screaming. It was like coming from me almost. And I sat right up, and I looked at the door, and when somebody like stands in front of a light, obviously it's going to block the light. I could tell that the light was being blocked by something. So I was thinking, are my parents in the bathroom? The bathroom was right across the hall. And I could tell that it was being blocked by something smaller than my parents. And I'm looking, and I'm like, is it my dog? Fun fact, our dog refused to go upstairs. Refused. She would put a paw on the stair to try, and she would look up. and then she would take her paw back down. There were times she would stand at the bottom of those stairs and growl. And like that man that had lived there previously, he never went upstairs. She refused. I would beg her. I really wanted her to sleep in my room. She would not go up those stairs. Ever. Ever. So I figured it wasn't her, but I leaned out and I looked. And this is going to sound crazy, and I know it's weird to explain, and whatever, especially if you've never experienced it, but I saw the shadow, and I just immediately knew it was like a little kid. It wasn't necessarily like human form. There was no face, like, no, I couldn't see clothing, nothing like that, but the way the shadow was, I knew, I could just tell. And it turned towards me. I could tell that it did. And then it moved and it went down the hallway and it kind of just disappeared into the attic door, because the attic door was in the hallway as well. And I remember knowing at that point, like, either I am going completely crazy and something is really severely wrong with me, or this house is truly, truly haunted and I'm so scared it's going to get worse. I tell my parents. And they're like, well, you woke up from your sleep and maybe you were dreaming. Maybe it was all a dream. Maybe you were just, so tired that you just thought you saw a shadow and whatever. Okay. I'm not explaining it away at this point. I'm done with the excuses. Like, no, something's going on. The day after that happened, that night that I saw the shadow and it went into the attic, the day after that happened, I was opening my closet. Keep in mind, we're living here at this point about 4 or 5 months. I had been in and out of this closet a million times, getting stuff in and out of this closet. The day after that happened, I happened to notice on the inside of my closet door, in plain view, I don't know how I ever missed it. You know when you measure a kid, like on a door, you get a little pencil and then you measure them the next year and the next year? There was one of those on the door and the name was Mary Jane. And it started when she was 3 and it ended when she was 8. And I showed my parents and I'm like, look at this. What if something happened to this little girl here? And I'm like, it ends at 8. And they're like, she probably just moved, which, valid point. But the fact that I saw it the day after that happened really stuck with me. I felt like I was meant to see it. I ended up seeing that it sounds insane to say that little girl, but like that particular shadow, I'm sorry, I'm trying not to sound insane. It didn't really scare me all that bad. And that's another reason I knew, like, I think it was just something trapped there that wasn't evil or malevolent. I think I just said that word wrong. And we'll get into those things for sure. But this was the first where it was like, I saw with my own eyes, like, something is in this house and it's trying to communicate with me and something is going on. And from here on out, it just gets progressively crazier and crazier and crazier. I'm going to end this one here. I really want to talk though about that room that I was in. I only ended up staying in that room for about probably the first 5-6 months. Shortly after I found the height thing in the closet, I ended up moving out of that room. We'll get to that. That room was one of the worst rooms in the entire house. And I really want to tell you guys about the nightmares that it would give you, to the point people were acting things out that had never slept walk, had never slept talk. It would put the deepest, darkest nightmares into your brain. The worst nightmares I've ever had in my life I had in that room. Same with my sister, same with my mom, same with my dad. So we'll get into that next time. Thank you for listening. All right. Again, ask any questions, leave a comment, leave a like, follow. Bye. Thank you for watching.
It's always such a sign when something is dirt cheap. Like, obviously you want a good deal, but sometimes there's just a level where it's like, is this cheap because of something that I don't want to know about? Like, should I pay more to avoid whatever's going to happen in this place? Like, even hotels. Recently I booked a hotel. My parents were helping me move, and I booked a hotel for the 3 of us and Oscar to sleep in the night before we flew back here. And I was like trying to look for just like a cheap hotel since we were staying there for one night, but at a certain point I was like, if it gets any cheaper than this, I think that's too cheap, like suspiciously cheap. And so it's like you have to think, like, is this too cheap because of a bad reason, or am I actually getting a good deal? Clearly in this case they were not getting a good deal, because I ended up with a haunted, terrifying home. I also think it's weird that the church is like renting that house out, because why does the priest not want to stay there? What's wrong with it that the priest does not like it there? And then hearing about the guy who would not go upstairs, would go out of his way to go shower outside of his home instead of using the shower that was upstairs because he was so afraid of going up there. I don't know why anyone would think that's a good idea to move in there after hearing that. For sure, it could just be like a crazy person. However, I don't know. I feel like that's 2 red flags at that point. The price being dirt cheap, and then someone who had weird experiences living there, was afraid to use an entire floor of the house and use the house as shower. I don't know. That's just, that's really off. It's so interesting to me that it's like a church channel, like a mass that's popping up on the TV in the middle of the night. I wonder if it was like the negative spirits did it to like mock her and freak her out, and like they're mocking the church or whatever, or if it was turned on by like maybe one good spirit as a way to kind of rebuke the negative things, and it came across as creepy and actually like in hindsight was a good thing despite the fact that it had to be turned on because there was negative entities. It could be like just negative straight up, or it could be like it was turned on to deter the negative spirits from hanging out in that room in the moment. In the next 3 TikToks, she shows us the outside of the house and tells us stories about horrible incidences she had sleeping in her room.
Hi guys. Okay, I hear you about part 4. I just took an everything shower, so I feel nice and refreshed, but unfortunately this is the state now that you have to get me in. But welcome back. I am Liera. I lived in a real life horror movie for 3 years. And this is my series. This is part 3. I want to start this one off by showing you guys some pictures of the church and the house. So, move out of the way. That was the church. So we lived in the parsonage of that church. Very large. Take it all in. And then that is the house. And it's about the closest, like, picture that I can find of it where it's like close to the frame. There's none that are very up close, but like I said, I'm gonna go. I'm hoping to go. I probably won't have time tomorrow, but I'm hoping to go on Thursday and actually like film. Like I have stories. Like that's the attic window where the rocking chair was, the front porch. That would have been my parents' bedroom window. There is a window right here for the downstairs bathroom that we used to see handprints on, little tiny handprints, and we would wash it off and they would come right back. Yeah, the side would have been where my rooms had been because I did end up switching rooms. But yeah. Here's just a side view of the house. That's that bathroom window I was talking about. That would be the kitchen window. That was the window. I called that the orange room because it had orange carpet. Nothing bad ever happened in the orange room, coincidentally enough, but you would see, there was a mirror in there and you would see things in it all the time. You'd see things behind you in the hallway. That was on the stairs, little window there going up the stairs. That would be the attic. Yeah, that ramp was not there when we lived there, but that's where we park in this parking lot right here, and we would go in and experience pure hell. Here's just a little view of the garage. That was the yard, the garage, the church is here. The garage had extremely creepy vibes as well. I didn't spend much time in there, obviously, but I was in there a few times, and it had the extremely, like, dark, heavy feeling in it. Okay, so now that you have a little bit of an image, without further ado, let's get into part 3. I'm saying part 3 now. I'm thinking is part 4. I think it's part 3. Okay, whatever. You know what it is. So this is going to be more of just like one single story kind of, because this was like a turning point after, like I was telling you guys, after the first few months, like I just described to you, you know, the seeing the little girl, the noises, all of that, that's where my memory starts to get very blurry. As the big things started to happen, it's hard for me to piece when they were happening. And I talked to my parents about all of this tonight. We talked for like hours about it because I was telling them that I'm doing this, and their memory is exactly like mine. It's crazy. We don't remember Christmases there. I don't remember having a birthday there. We don't remember Thanksgiving. We don't remember like a lot from being there. And just like me, they remember big things and then they don't remember like where it fit into everything else. So this was the very first like big thing I can remember happening, and it might not sound all that scary to you guys, but like I'm telling you, it was absolutely terrifying, and everything changed after this point. So keep in mind, in the meantime, I see the little girl, the TV's doing the thing, the stereo. In the meantime, this all ramps up. it's like just annoyances still, essentially. But like I would put something down, say I had a cup, I put it in the kitchen, I go to the bathroom, I come out, it's in the living room, and I'm like, I know that was in the kitchen. I turn my bedroom light off, I go downstairs, I come back up, the light's on. I'm like, I know I turned that off. Things like that. Things were getting moved, lights were turning on and off. So at this point, it's still kind of just like annoying. But one morning, I'm getting ready for school, and I'm downstairs in the kitchen, and remember, the basement door was in the kitchen, so you would open it up, you go down in the basement, and there was a little lock on it, just a tiny little lock, but I'm down there, and I'm pouring a glass of juice, I will never forget, and I suddenly hear the loudest stomping I have ever heard in my life coming up those basement stairs. I mean, like, I can't even explain it. It was like an immediate feeling of doom and dread, and like, this is not good. I mean, boom, 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 just getting louder and louder and louder each step. I can tell it's coming up the steps. And then the door just starts rattling. Somebody is just shaking on the door. I still get really scared talking about it, to be honest. And it's just going, and I drop my glass and it shatters. And I don't know that I've ever run faster in my life, and I bolted through the dining room, and I bolted through the living room, and I bolted upstairs, and I bolted down the hallway. My mom was in the bathroom getting ready for work, and I'm screaming and I'm crying and I'm inconsolable, and I'm like, somebody's in the house, somebody's in the house, somebody's in the house. Now, of course, she thinks I mean like a robber, an intruder. I guess part of me thought maybe that could have been it, but it was like my gut knew. I knew immediately. I knew when I heard those footsteps. Humans don't make footsteps that loud. I knew. And if you're an intruder, like, why would you be purposely being that loud? I mean, this person would have had to weigh like 1,000 pounds in steel-toe boots to be making the booming that the footsteps were making. Sorry, I'm tired and I have a headache if I'm like not making a ton of sense. But so I'm screaming to my mom, somebody's in the house. She flies to her bedroom because they had a house phone in the bedroom, and she calls my dad, and my dad comes home from work, and he does a full check of the house. Every single window, every single door, every single lock. Are there footprints anywhere outside the house? Does anything look moved? I mean, he looked and looked and looked for like an hour, and nothing. There was no sign that anybody had been in there. Every window was fine. Everything was still locked. And there, at that point, there's like no explanation. They were like, well, maybe you just heard the wind. Maybe it was an animal. So, once again, but this was like, that was the big thing. Seeing the little girl shadow and stuff was obviously a big thing, but it wasn't as scary as this. This was when it turned into true fear. It went from kind of annoyances, I'm seeing things here and there, I hear little things are getting moved, to this is personal, and this is something bad. It's not just something that's trapped here. It's something that is here and wants to be, and does not want me to be here, does not want us to be here. So yeah, after this, I was scared to be in any room alone. I was scared to have any lights off. I was scared to go to sleep. This was the point. I have like some hearing loss, and I swear it's from living in this house, because I would sleep with my iPod, and I would just blare music so loud so that I didn't hear anything, because I was terrified at this point. And I've learned later, in life, that these things feed off your fear. So unfortunately, I was serving them a freaking buffet. But after this, the next big thing that I can remember happening, this is going to lead me into like the nightmares, and that in the bedroom I was telling you guys about, the bedroom that I had, I did end up leaving it, and I will tell you what led up to that for sure. That was a big event. But the next big thing I can remember is I was in my room, and I started to have the most intense night terrors that I've ever experienced in my entire life. I started to have sleep paralysis. I would wake up, and it would feel like somebody was, like there was a dark shadow in front of me. It would feel like it was sitting on my chest, and I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't move. And it would be, to me, it would feel like hours that I couldn't move, but my eyes were open, and I was just seeing things, but I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. I felt like I couldn't breathe. At this point, I started to take sleeping pills, which I still do. Unfortunately, I think I am fully addicted because I cannot sleep without them. And I think it's honestly because of this. I started taking NyQuil, sleeping pills, anything, because it was so traumatizing to be there overnight. It was so traumatizing to be in that bedroom. And when I would sleep, I was terrorized by these nightmares. And the nightmares was always that something was pulling me down a dark hallway. And in my nightmare, it had like a Grim Reaper type hood on, and I could never see a face, but I knew it was like this dark energy, and it had this hood. It was pulling me down a hallway, and it would pull me down the hallway by my legs, and it would hurt. It would hurt really bad in the dream. And when I would wake up, My legs would still hurt. This dream progressed into me waking up in my hallway with like bruises and scratches all over my legs. Could I have been doing it to myself? Maybe. I can't rule that out. But I will say before that and after that, I never got out of bed in my sleep. I have never hurt myself in my sleep. I really don't talk in my sleep. I don't move much in my sleep. So I don't know. But I would have scratches and bruises and unexplainable things, unexplainable places to be waking up. So yeah, and I mean, it was the Grim Reaper thing. So it was driving me down the hallway, whatever. Turns out, never knew this, but one night I was so terrified. I had my mom sleep in there with me because I had a futon, and she had a dream that these things were walking around the house, these tall figures with Grim Reaper hoods on, and they were chanting, "This is ours, this is ours, this is ours." And she said it terrified her so bad that she would never sleep in that room again. Now, at the time, she just told me she had a bad dream. She didn't say what the dream was about. She didn't say what she saw. She said she did not want to sleep in that room again, and that was it. I later found out, years later when everything came to light, what she had dreamt about in there, and it was the same hooded figures that I was dreaming about as well. My dad slept in there. He had the same dream about the hooded figures, and they were pulling me down a hallway. So insane. Very, very insane. Thanks for listening again. Give me a follow, give me a like if you like this. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. I'm gonna get another one up tomorrow morning, hopefully. Hello again, friends. As promised, part 4 in the morning. My name is Liera. I live my own horror story for 3 years. Thank you for being here. Again, thank you for listening. Memo, stop. My dog's scratching the floor. Thank you for being here, listening, watching, commenting. Stop, Melly. Sorry, quit. I wanted to give a little disclaimer first. I completely forgot to mention this, and I am sorry. I have not lived in this place in like 15 years. I realized some of the comments seem like people think like I just recently left. So I'm really sorry that I didn't make that distinction. So this is not something that's like super fresh in my mind or like super hurtful to me all the time or anything like that. So just wanted to get that out of the way. Where we left off was the first big event. I had heard the pounding up the kitchen stairs. So, unbeknownst to me, again, did not know these things until a few years after we moved out. The week after this happened to me, my parents were in their room. No one else was in the house this day. They had the door shut and they were getting ready. And as they were getting ready to leave, they heard come down the hallway the loudest stomping they have ever heard. Boom, 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 boom. The same exact thing that bolted down the hallway. Same thing I heard coming up the stairs, they heard going down the hallway, and it slammed into their door. My dad told me, after the fact, told me that the slam was so loud that he almost immediately knew it couldn't be a person. Same as I felt when I heard the slamming coming up the basement stairs. I knew, like, that's not a person. There's no way a person makes a noise that loud. And he said he felt the same, and he, ripped the door open and was ready for whatever he was going to find, but he kind of knew that it wasn't going to be anything he saw or could see, and that it definitely wasn't a person. So that happens to them in the meantime. Obviously, I don't know that. I continue on with the torment in my room, the night terrors, all of that. One day, I am going to school. It's been about probably four or 5 months at this point of, barely sleeping. Just my personality is really starting to change. I'm sleep deprived. I'm also a preteen, and that's a rough time period in your life as it is, as far as hormones go. I have a lot of mental health issues even now, and they kind of like hit me head on at that point at like 12, 13 years old. It was like getting hit by a Mack truck, and that Mack truck was like major depression and bipolar disorder. So I'm dealing with all of that. This house is making it worse. The no sleep's making it worse. And one day, the teacher that I had for first period, and so like first thing in the morning at school, that teacher that I had, I remember her bringing me into her office, and she was like, "Hey, just want to check on you. You seem really tired. Don't totally seem like yourself. Are you okay? I just want to be sure." And at this point, I felt so alone. I felt like nobody believed me. I felt insane. But for some reason, I just opened up to her and I just told her. And I'm like, this is going on at my house. This is what happens in my room. I know I sound crazy. Something made her ask me where I lived, which is really strange because I think if the roles were reversed and I was the teacher, I wouldn't have thought to ask. But she asked me, "Where do you live?" And it's obviously, it's a landmark, so it's easy to say, you know, the XYZ church parsonage. And I will never in a million years forget the look on her face when I told her. It was like she got white and just scared looking. And she was like, really? People live there? Like, I didn't know people lived there. And I was like, yeah, people do, and it's me and my family. And I said, you know, I just feel crazy. Like, maybe it's not happening. And she said, I will tell you this. This is like the weirdest coincidence in the world. She said, I'll tell you this. I spent one night in that house. So she was a, what was it? Like she had a group of some sort of like, I don't know if it was like Girl Scouts, something along those lines, where they did like a sleepover. They used that house one night for the sleepover. It had been years prior. She said, I spent one night in that house, and a lot of girls left and went home early and wouldn't even sleep at the house that night. And I will tell you that I personally would never spend another night in that house if somebody paid me. I remember at that point just like sobbing, because it was like, finally somebody else knows what is going on, and they believe me, and they've experienced it, and they're talking to me about it, and they're being honest. And it was like the biggest relief in the world. I am forever so glad that I had that connection with that, because otherwise I think that the mental health, oh my God, there's this bug crawling on my leg, scared the absolute shit out of me. But I think otherwise my mental health, as bad as it did still get, I think it would have gotten worse had I not had that one person that was like, no, I get it too. And I had that in my friends as well. My friends that have ended up coming over, they would be like, this place is creepy, this happened, I heard this. And so that was all validating as well, and made me feel a lot less alone. So I'm so thankful for them. So thankful for my best friend Brooke, who saw things happen and never made me feel crazy, never made me feel alone, knew what I meant, experienced it herself, all of that. She's the best friend anybody could ever have. Okay, so I have that confirmed at school that is going on. Now, you know, the thing happens to my parents. Now in the room at night, like I said, I sleep with the iPod. I try to not hear anything, but sometimes I still do, or the iPod dies, or whatever, you know, what have you. If I'm still hearing things at night, I'm starting to hear like whispering. And I would try to convince myself it was outside the window, but I knew it wasn't. And it would start to get closer and closer, like towards my bed, just like, and I could never hear words, but it would just be like, and I could tell it was two different like voices, like whispering, but I could never make out words. But again, I would try to have the TV on, but then the TV would go to that Catholic channel, or try to have the iPod would randomly die, even though it had just been charged. Things like that start to happen. Then I'm starting to hear just like little footsteps in my bedroom at night, and then they'll kind of go out to the hallway, little like pitter patter footsteps in the hallway. So it's ramping up. I'm still having the nightmares, all of that. The last night that I ever spent in that room brings me into a chunk of the story that's very important, which is the bats. The bats that tormented a family. We had a few bats in the house at this point. Bats were never something that bothered me, never something that I was afraid of. My mom has always been terrified of them. I have not. I always thought her fear was silly. I didn't understand it. I will tell you, at this point in my life, I have a phobia of bats to the point that it actually negatively affects my life. In the summers, I can't sit outside. If I see a bat outside, I'm done. If one gets close to me, I am immediately having a panic attack. I am horrified, terrified. You can't even describe the level of fear I have over bats. But anyway, so we have a few up until this point in the house. And then I'm asleep one night. I wake up. Remember, the ceilings are really, really tall in this house. So I'm in my bedroom and I'm looking up at the ceiling. And I remember I'm just seeing this like shadow. Just going. And I'm watching it and I'm like, what is that? And then it's starting to like dip down and back up and dip down. And you know the famous, oh, it gives me chill sound that a bat makes. Oh my God, I can't even take it. I hear that and I'm like, oh my God, it's a bat. The fear that took over my body, I went from not being afraid at all to like absolute phobia, paranoia, whole body jolted in fear over this bat. And I can hear it hitting the back wall. And I hear it kind of swoop back forward and then boom, hits the back wall. So I start to learn its pattern. I'm so terrified. I have my comforter over my head and I get myself to the end of my bed under the comforter. I'm like crawling down towards the end of the bed and I'm listening. And this goes on like a half hour. But when I finally hit it or hear it hit the back wall again, I jump off the edge of my bed. I bolt down the hallway. I fly into my parents' room. I'm like, there's a bat in my room, there's a bat in my room. You know, freaking out. My dad goes, he gets it, takes it outside. And I ended up sleeping on a mattress on the floor in their bedroom for 2 weeks. And then I moved into the bedroom that was right beside theirs. There was actually a door in the middle of the bedroom that led into each room. So I slept on the floor there. After this incident happened with the bat in my bedroom, the house was infested. And when I say infested, I mean there was a bat or multiple bats every single day. You could hear them in the walls. You could hear them in the ceiling. We had like the drop ceiling. You could like push the tiles up. You would hear them in there. They were hanging on the curtains. They were in our rooms. They were in the basement. They were in the attic. I'm telling you, these bats were everywhere. We had exterminator after exterminator after exterminator come in and tell us there is no signs of infestation in this house. There is no bat droppings. There is no evidence of any damage from bats. There is no evidence that there are bats here at all. I have looked it up. If bats are in your basement, the infestation is very severe. But yet everybody is telling us there is no way. I've looked it up too, and I guess this is a tactic that, I don't want to say that word out loud, the D word, the bad D word, demonic, presence or entities can use to like torment you. I am going to end this one here, but I still have something I want to keep talking about with the bats. So we will pick up that in part 5, which I am going to for sure try to get out, I would say this evening or a little bit later tonight. Thank you again for being here. See you in part 5. Actually, I do just want to finish up the bat thing real quick before I would bring it the whole way back into part 5. So consider this like part 4.5 of I Love My Own Horror Story. But I will say the bat thing was an ongoing issue from the time like the infestation started. It never ended until the very day we moved. They tormented us the entire time, but I don't want to have to keep bringing it up. So just know that. But the extremely weird part of this whole bat thing, other than them being all through the house and everybody saying that they aren't, was my dad started to go to work, a place he had worked at for, at that point, probably 20 years. And I think he had said maybe once in those 20 years they had a bat in the building. He started to have a bat at his work repeatedly. Like he would go there in the morning, open the doors, and be flying through the hallway. My mom started to go to work and there would be a bat there. Again, she was there probably 20 years at her job with very rarely were there bats. It was like it started to follow in every aspect of our lives. And is it a coincidence? Maybe. Again, like some of this stuff can be explained and it might not be anything, but how weird. 20 years and you have 1, maybe 2, and then boom, it's like multiple days in a row or multiple times in a month while your house is also infested. I don't think they were just hitching a ride. Like I don't know. I don't know how they got there. But yeah, bats completely tormented us. I'll never forget the one time my friend Brooke that I keep bringing up. We were going down into the basement. We were trying to get freeze pops out of the deep freezer we had down there. And I had to like convince her to go down with me. I'm like, come on, it'll be fine. There's nothing down there. There's not a bat. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. We get to the bottom of the stairs. Here it comes. Just dive bombing right at our faces. I've never seen somebody get from point A to point B quicker. Within a second look and she's at the top of the stairs again. I'm like, did you just levitate up there? But yeah, so the bats were an ongoing thing. So I just wanted to wrap that up. All right. Thank you.
Let me tell you, I would be so scared if there was a bat in my room. Bats are like all spooky cute and whatever from afar, but they are so scary to me. Keep in mind, I'm also afraid of birds. I love birds. I think they're beautiful. Love the noises they make, but I'm always afraid they're gonna like, irrational fear. I'm always afraid they're gonna like peck my head or something. I don't know why I developed that fear as a child and it still reigns true to this day. I'm afraid of birds. I love them from a distance, but up close, I'm like kind of scared. And bats, I feel like are a more intense version of birds, if you know what I mean. I also recently at my last apartment was like, there was a bat that was like chasing me and Oscar. We were like down the hall from our apartment and the bat kept swooping down and like trying to land on us and like attack us. It was horrifying. We were like running back and forth through the halls like Scooby-Doo trying to get away from this bat, and I eventually outran it and had to take an elevator and take like a back route up to my apartment to avoid this bat that kept diving on us. Anyway, long story short, bats are, again, adorable from afar in a spooky way, but terrifying. If there was one in my room, I would be so scared. Specifically for like the rabies purpose, but outside of that, like, I don't know, it just is scary. They're like vampires of the bird world. So the fact that a bat showed up in her house, the exterminator guy, pest control, whatever he was claiming that there was no way there was a bat in the house. And then all of a sudden her parents are seeing bats in their workplaces that they've never seen before. It for sure was something negative messing with them. That's no coincidence. Between that and like the interaction with the teacher where she says that the teacher slept there for Girl Scouts when she was younger and they had weird experiences and are terrified of the place. Also the fact that the teacher immediately had a weird reaction when she found out that she actually lived there and that people lived there is telling enough. Our next TikTok's for the user 6Seanlee, who tells us he had an encounter with something while sleeping on his couch in the middle of the night.
So this is where I passed out, excuse my language, because you can see how the cushions are fucked up. So I was sleeping here. I had Phoebe just right here. She was like tucked between my leg and the cushion. I just turned this light on. But also, if you come to my kitchen, okay, I have overhead lights. There are two separate string lights, right? So they're plugged in here. Like I can't make it up here. They're both plugged in. I can unplug them for you. So you're telling me 2 strands of overhead lights just burn out last night? Because this came back on. This one was already having kind of problems, but I never had problems with this set of string lights. It's flickering. You can see it flickering. So my entire apartment's dark, completely pitch black. I just turned on, obviously, my bedroom TV, but it's just pitch black, and I just hear shuffling all the way from the hallway to the office bedroom over there, back to the hallway, behind me, behind my head. Here, stopped. That's when I was like, what the fuck? All the way over to my bedroom. The second I heard it get like here, I jumped off my couch. Phoebe took off. And I'm looking around in the darkness like this. And there's just a whole lot of nothing. So, good morning, everyone.
I would be so scared to be making that video, completely acknowledging the whole situation. I'm imagining the thing like watching me from the corner, like laughing at me because I'm making a video about how scared I was. Anytime I've ever had a weird encounter, I refuse to talk about it in the place it happened. I refuse to like make a story being like, oh my god, this just happened. I did not want to acknowledge it. In my old apartment, I realized it ended up being a pipe thing where my toilet would just flush on its own. Definitely like wasn't a ghost thing, but at first I thought it was, and I was terrified. But I refused to talk about it in my apartment. I only mentioned it to a couple people and I refused to tell them about it until we were at another location because I didn't want whatever it was when I thought it was something to hear me speaking about it. So the fact that this just happened, and I could see on his stove timer that it is 3 a.m, mind you. The fact that this just happened is 3 a.m. and he's automatically filming a video and being like, this happened, there was like a shadow and I heard footsteps. Crazy to me because that thing I'm sure is still in the vicinity and is watching you completely acknowledge it and like it knows it gotcha. So as I'm watching this video, I'm like scared because I'm like, you just experienced that thing, whatever. And now you're being like, hey, I know you're here and feeding into it. So scary to me. But also, I'm glad he made this video because I'm watching it and it's entertaining. So, not the best idea, but we are getting enjoyment out of it. So, I guess word of advice, don't do this. If you have something, just like pretend nothing's happening. Our next TikTok's from the user Talia the Creator, who hears screaming while out in the Appalachian Mountains at night.
Come on, baby. Yeah, let's go. We spots? Was that Dalmatian? Okay. You just wanted to be in the video. Say hey. Yeah, because what is that? Let's go inside. super far away, but like, no, what is that? Yo, come on. Come on, yo. You can't decide so fast. Yeah, I don't know what that was, but we in for the night. We in for the night.
Listen, I'm not one to judge how other people react to being scared, but what took them so long to get back inside? First of all, I'd be minding my own business and like pretend nothing happened. She's over here like filming and being like, what is that? I'd be like, and march right back inside. Like, I've done that before in situations where I'm like trying not to be obvious that I'm trying to like avoid someone at nighttime when I'm taking Oscar out. I'm like, come on, it's time for bedtime. I'm tired. Let's get inside quickly because I'm tired. And instead of being like, hurry up, we gotta get inside. Gotta master the art of ushering a dog in without making it seem obvious that you're scared. That was not done in this at all. I mean, it could have been worse. She certainly could have reacted to this a lot worse, but she could have been way more subtle about it as well. And this is obviously a video, and obviously I know they're fine because this video is posted. However, I'm sitting here and like panicking and getting nervous because I'm like, oh my God, you're taking so long to get back inside. I would have been inside the second I heard something. Wouldn't even had time to finish screaming before I was back in that house, doors locked. Honestly, probably like packing my stuff up to leave at that point. I don't think I will ever stay in the woods by myself, much less with Oscar, because I'm terrified of having like two people to take care of. Like, I have to worry about me and my safety, and then I have to worry about him and his safety, which, call me crazy, but I value him and his safety more than me and my safety because he's my literal child. And so I'd be like freaking out that I'm like, I have all this on my plate. So I don't know, this whole thing just screams bad idea and terrifying and scary. Curious to what that thing was, but also I might not want to know. Our next TikTok's by the user Thorky Leanthony, who tells us he's experiencing a banging yet again and goes to investigate.
All right, we woke up to the banging sound outside of our bedroom again. It sounded like it was coming from outside yet again, but I think I know where it's coming from, so I'm gonna show you. Right there. I think it's coming from there. Something is banging on that. It's happened, it happened last night, it happened 2 nights ago. That's our bedroom window right there. I hope there's nothing trapped in there, raccoon, I don't know. But it's been freaking us out, waking us up. So we're gonna take a look. Goodness gracious. I can't see very far down there. Let me see if my light helps. I can't see all the way to the end, but I don't see anything. And that goes around a corner. I don't know if I can even fit between the blocks and that pipe, but I guess we're gonna have to take a look in there. Fuck.
I love how he just sticks the phone in there, like sticks us right in there, face to face with whatever it could be potentially. I was like terrified as we were going in there that there was going to be some kind of a face or something going on there. But the fact that it doesn't seem like an animal, I think makes the situation worse, because that is the first thought, you know, animal, obviously. I don't think there is a possibility of like a person being inside the walls. Doesn't seem like someone could really fit in there easily and comfortably. So then it makes me think it's something paranormal related. And I think that that's what he's kind of getting at in this video. And a lot of people in the comments were kind of agreeing and suggesting the same thing. I mean, I don't know, you shouldn't be hearing banging on your walls, ever. Like, that shouldn't happen. I think there's something fishy happening here for sure. Our next TikTok's with user Miss CP4GRA4Y. She accidentally catches something horrifying on camera. There's a lot happening in this video. There's a follow-up TikTok that I'm going to post, but she doesn't mention it in this video. This is in a caption, so I will share this with you. There was somebody in her house, and they stole an iPad and 2 laptops from her. However, during this whole thing where all this is happening and you can hear those noises, which are actually a person, something that is not a person, like aka a ghost, opens a door for her, and she says that she watched something make prints on her bed. So it's like a double whammy in this video. 2 equally terrifying things, well, maybe not equally, 2 terrifying things happening at the same time. What are the odds that she's casually filming and catches sounds from an intruder and paranormal activity in the same video? Like, what the heck? Anyway, in the next TikTok I'm going to show you, she demonstrates to us how hard it is to open the door that was opened by the ghost, apparently, to show it couldn't have been the wind. And again, it was not a person. So how did this door open?
Okay, update. I am fine. I'm alive. And I'm back here in my apartment. I do have someone with me this time. Say hi. Hi. Okay, so yeah, obviously terrifying experience, but a lot of you were asking about the door, and so I kind of wanted to, like, I guess, address it. I don't know. I'm just as confused as you guys are. I have no fucking idea what happened. The best I could explain it is like divine intervention, or like just like some sign. I don't know, that sounds stupid, but but like that's really the only way I can explain it. You can see there's like some tape on here. The landlord just kind of like lazily kept it on there for, I don't know, like a paint job, and I have been meaning to take it off, but I didn't take it off just so I can show you this, because this door is not the easiest to open, and this is why I think it's like a divine thing, or like, I don't know, a ghost, or I don't, yeah, it's not easy, so it's not like just like the wind pushed it or anything. I think someone actually, or something, I don't fucking know, opened the door, and all I know is whatever happened, I'm grateful to whatever opened this door, because if this didn't open, I don't know, some things probably would have happened. So I am very grateful. Thank you to whatever angel or God, or I have no idea. but yeah, just wanted to show that to you.
I don't know, like, that's so crazy that all of that just happened at once. And again, she just so happened to be filming when she heard the crash. This is not set up because someone stole her iPad and 2 laptops. This is insane. Our next TikTok's by the user Lily's Storytime, who tells us about the scariest thing that happened when she was babysitting.
One of the scariest things that ever happened to me while babysitting, story time. Now, I was 15, I've been babysitting for a few years at this point, so I had a lot of experience with kids. They love me. Well, a family friend asked if I would go babysit their 7-year-old son for a couple of days while they went out of town to Myrtle Beach, so I said sure, that was great money for me. So the parents put their bags in the car, they showed me where everything is. Now, his mom made it clear to me that he has a very active imagination, and that because his daddy let him watch horror movies the week prior, he's been having nightmares and making things up, saying that he's been seeing stuff around the house that's not there. So they get their stuff in the car, they give their son a kiss, and they leave. So I'm flipping through all the satellite channels, you know, checking out different shows, eating popcorn, little boy's playing with his toys, drinking his little juicy juice, and we're just having a good time. So I go in the kitchen to put a frozen pizza in the oven, and all of a sudden, this little boy comes flying out the living room, running up to me, and then wraps around my leg, just looking in the living room and then looking at me, back and forth. I said, "Damn, son, are you okay? What happened?" He said, "She's in there, she's in there." I said, "Who's in there?" He said, "Her," but I didn't see nothing. And before I can push him any further, he walks over and sits in front of the TV and starts ignoring me. We're sitting on the couch watching TV, TV, and their couch was in the middle of the room, so you could walk around it. Well, this little boy starts looking behind the couch and then back at the TV. So I start looking back behind us. You know, it's like a natural reaction when you see somebody else doing that, you start doing it. The more he did this, the more I felt like somebody was standing behind us, but I don't see anything. So I get up and walk across the room, and from there I can see the hallway, and for a second, something stood out to me. At the end of the hallway, it looked like someone was peeking around the corner like this. But when I cut the light on, it was gone, so I thought my mom was playing tricks on me. My anxiety's peaking, so I'm like, okay, it's the first time you've been left alone in someone else's house. Calm down, go take a shower and go to bed. But while I'm taking a shower, I get the weirdest feeling like somebody's standing outside of the shower curtain. Now, they had a big-ass bathroom, so I was like, dude, it's a new place, it's a big bathroom, you're not used to this. Just stop freaking out. But I have to keep sticking my head out the shower curtain to make sure nobody's there because I'm getting that vibe like somebody is there. So I peek out the shower again and bam, this kid is standing in the doorway crying. I said, what's wrong? He said, it's gonna get me. It's in there. I just saw it. Can I stay here with you? I'm scared. I said, yes, stay right there. Just turn the other way. And then I dry off and get dressed in the shower so he can't see me. Now it's about 11 o'clock at this point and he's still wide awake. So we sit there and talk for a little while. We play with Legos, Play-Doh. I'm just trying to wear him out so he'll go to sleep. Well, finally around 2 a.m., he falls asleep. Now, it was already so late, I didn't have time to unpack my clothes, so I just get in the bed and I go to sleep. About 10 minutes later, I hear this youngin' screaming again. Before I can even get out of the bed, I hear him thunk, 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 and he's already running into my room, jumps into bed with me. He's screaming to the top of his lungs, she's there in my room, behind the door. She's gonna get me if I'm alone. Please don't make me go back in there. So we're laying there in the bed together, and he says, I know you think I'm making stuff up. I promise you I'm not. She was there. I saw her. I said, honey, I believe you. It's okay. Just relax and close your eyes and start taking some deep breaths. This child has one hell of a grip on me. Like, he's wrapped around me like a python, so I could tell he was really scared. Like, he really thought something was going to snatch his ass off that bed. So I just held him and hoped that maybe he would calm down. Now, I know a lot of you would just tell these kids to hush and go to bed, but I'm not like that. I went through the same thing as a child. I would see things that were not there, and nobody else believed me. So I wanted him to know that I believed him and I was protecting him. So I reach over to the nightstand and I tapped that old school touch lamp 3 times and put it on the brightest setting so it lit up the room. That way we would feel more safer and we'd get some sleep. Then I start hearing some distant thunder and then it starts pouring rain. I think, oh, well, that sounds relaxing. So because of that storm, my ass knocked out. I was doing some good sleeping until about 30-40 minutes later. That was when I abruptly woke up to the bed shaking. It felt like a small tremor, like a little earthquake. So I'm trying to get my eyes adjusted and wake up and figure out why is the bed shaking. Apparently the storm knocked the power out because it was pitch black dark in that room and the only time I could see anything was when the lightning struck. Well, once my head gets adjusted, I start hearing a noise like chattering of teeth. I'm laying there trying to figure out what the hell is that noise and what is shaking the bed. And that's when I look over and I see the little boy is sitting up on the other side of the bed with his hands holding the cover, and it's him shaking the bed. He's shaking that hard. And that chattering sound I heard was coming from his teeth. He was sitting here holding the covers with his eyes wide open and going, God, are you okay? Because I thought he was having a seizure, but when I looked at him, his eyes darted over to mine, and I realized he was awake. He was so scared. Like, he couldn't move. He was frozen, shaking and chattering. I'm like, well, if he's not having a seizure, what is wrong with him? And that's when it clicks. He's sitting here staring at the door, so I look at the door. Y'all, let me tell you, in that moment, when that lightning flashed, I damn near shit my pants. It scared me so bad. Have you ever been so scared that your hands and arms and legs start tingling, they damn near go numb? When I looked at that bedroom door, there was someone's head peeking around the door like this, and you could only see their eyes. And when the lightning stopped flashing, I couldn't see anything anymore. It was complete darkness. That was when it really hit me. Holy crap, we're not alone. There's someone else in the house, and they're standing right there. But what really freaked me out was every time the lightning would strike, I could see more of that person's face. Like, it started like this, and then this, and this, and then I could see their actual mouth. This person was smiling ear to ear. I could barely take a breath in. All I could think was, what the hell is that thing? Then, of course, the lightning stopped flashing, so for a few seconds, it was completely dark, and I had that feeling again like someone was watching us and getting closer and closer, and I was starting to panic. And when lightning struck a few seconds later, I could tell they were getting closer because now this motherfucker, person, thing, or whatever, was now at the foot of the bed, peeking over like this, staring at us. At this point, my damn teeth were chattering. All I could hear was between the both of us. So I pulled that little boy up on my lap in my arms as tight as I could because I didn't want whatever it was to try to snatch him out of my arms, and I held him real tight. So now when the lightning flashed, we could see its whole face peeking over the bed, smiling, looking right at us. So that was when fight or flight kicked in for me, and I remember the dad telling me that he'd put a loaded pistol in the nightstand and behind the headboard of this bed, so I start reaching around for it. And for some reason, my gut was telling me, you better keep your eyes on this thing. Every time the lightning strikes, pinpoint where it is with your eyes and don't take your eyes off or it's gonna jump. Reaching, trying to multitask, keep my eyes on it, hold the little boy, and feel around for this pew-pew, and I finally feel it, and I snatch it out of that holster and I hold it up. When the lightning struck, I pointed at this thing. I said, if you take another step, I'm gonna blow you into the next room. Get out and leave now. In that moment, something happened. I don't know what it was, but I could feel me looking into it and it looking into me, and that lightning flashed, and then all of a sudden the power cut back on. And no lie, as soon as the power came on, it was gone. I snatched him up out of the bed, grabbed that pew-pew, and ran to the kitchen and called 911. I stayed on the phone with them, the police came, and then I called the parents. I put the cop on the phone, they're talking, and then they tell the cop that they're not coming back until Sunday. Even though we're telling them we think there's an intruder in the house and their child's here, they don't give a shit. They're not coming home. They think it's our imagination playing tricks on us because the power went out and we're getting freaked out with the storm and everything. So I made it very clear I was not staying in their house another minute, and I was going to take their child back to my family's house, and that's where we would be. And they said, okay, fine, we'll see you on Sunday. So I asked the little boy if that was the first time he saw this thing, and he said no. He'd been seeing it for months, but this was the first time it got that close. Now, I knew he'd have to go back to that house, so the next day, me and my cousin went over and cleansed the entire house, hoping it would help.
The thought of that happening to me actually physically makes me sick to my stomach. Like, I feel sick right now. Imagining being in a stranger's home, responsible for their child, and there's something that is creeping closer and closer to me, being illuminated by lightning. I actually cannot imagine that. That is so horrifying. And then the odds of her saying something to defend herself and finally the power goes back on and it disappears. I don't know. Like, the whole thing is terrifying to me, and I'm so happy that she validated the kid's fears and everything and didn't make him feel like he was stupid. But the fact that he's been seeing this thing and it's been like kind of creeping towards him multiple times now, horrifying. I can't even imagine something like that happening. That's so scary. On a non-paranormal note, the fact that the parents did not care, we're just like, okay, fine, take my kid and deal with him at your house. That's crazy. If I had a babysitter that was that freaked out, my kid was freaked out, they thought there was an intruder in the house, and my babysitter's so freaked out that she won't stay there and is actually going to take my child somewhere else, I'd be like, I'm hopping on the next plane. Like, I'm coming home. Wild that they weren't concerned. Our next TikTok's by user Jamara, who I shared a few of her TikToks in my last video. She tells us about a paranormal experience she had in Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
Yeah, come on over here and come take a seat so I can tell you all about how me and my friends got haunted at the Gatlinburg, Tennessee cabins. Yeah. So one of my best guy friends, him and his fiance were about to get married, and he travels internationally for his job. He knew that after the wedding, he would be overseas for probably about a year. So he decided he wanted to spend time with his friends before he went over there and was gone for a while. So fast forward to, we decided that we were going to stay in Gatlinburg, Tennessee for a weekend. So we decided on this cabin, beautiful cabin. I already knew the safety measurements to take because I was there 2 years before with a few of my friends at the time, a few of my lady friends at the time. So I already knew what kind of measurements to take. So we get there to this cabin, and when we get there, there's a little lock on the door where you put in the code and you walk in. So we put the code in, we go in there, and the first thing we wanted to do was go to the back area, like the backyard area of the cabin, because we knew it was too late for us to go drive into the city to do anything. So we go in the back. First thing we noticed was the jacuzzi on the deck, and there were also some games out there. And so 2 of our friends decided to get in the jacuzzi, and the rest of us kind of gathered around in a circle while the fire was burning. And we were just, doing cliche things, drinking some wine coolers, drinking some wine, and we roasted some marshmallows. Now, while we're doing this, we hear a whole bunch of commotion next door at the cabin, next door to us. This is not a secluded cabin. There are probably like 4 cabins on each side of the road, so we weren't alone. Okay, we were around people. So we hear all this noise and stuff at the cabin next door, which we didn't care about. We like, okay, they're having a ball. But while we're having fun, this man and this woman come stumbling from next door over to our cabin in the back area. And so they're like, oh, hey, sorry to bother you guys. And we're like, no, you're good. I hope we're not making a lot of noise. And we're like, no, y'all good. So then can we sit down? So me and my friend, we looked at each other and we kind of didn't get a good vibe about them. So I looked at my friend, he looked at me, and we both just kind of was just like, So because me and my friend felt that way, we kind of was like, okay. So they sat there for a while, for probably about 30 minutes, and then they decided to finally get up, and they went on about their business to their cabin next door. So now, mind you, it's not a huge gap between the cabins. It's like just a small amount of trees separating the cabin areas. So they walk through those trees, and we go on about our night. Now, fast forward to the morning, we see this woman outside of the cabin next door where the woman and the man wandered from. And so we waved at the woman. We're like, hey, good morning, good morning. And she was like, hey, good morning, you guys. Do you guys mind keeping it down a little bit more tonight? Because it was kind of loud last night. So one of my other friends, he's a police officer. He was like, now, wait a minute. He said, we weren't loud. He was like, that was y'all that was being loud. She was like, no, we were asleep. She was like, but we were asleep. We have our kids and we heard you guys. And so he pretty much was just done with it. He didn't want to argue with her. He was just like, okay, we'll keep it down, and left it alone. So we go into the city for our attractions. Fast forward, we get back to the cabin and our doors are open. And because our doors are open, we're scared because I don't know if anybody has ever rented from off of Airbnb, but they literally give you a whole list of things to be on the lookout for while you're renting a cabin and whatever, because a bear could have wandered in, right? So that's what we're worried about. So we call the local authorities. They come in, they check around, no bears, no animals in there. So we're good. We're happy about that. We go in, we get cleaned up, and then we hanging out in the living room area. Now, while me and my friends are down in the living area, and whatever, just chilling and chopping it up, in walks the woman and the man from last night that stumbled over into our cabin area in the backyard. So they just walk in. They didn't knock or anything. Just walked in like it was their cabin. So, of course, we're mad. We pissed off. We're like, hold on. You can't just come walking up in here. You can't do this, can't do that. So we put them out. They were confrontational with us like we were in the wrong. So when we put them out, we noticed that they were walking in the back of our cabin. And when they were walking in the back of our cabin, our friend that was with us, that's a police officer, was like, hold on. Like, y'all got to get up out of here. They stood there in the back near the fire area. And they were just standing there, and they were like, we don't have to go anywhere. And instantly, I just felt my chest get heavy. Like my heart dropped, my chest just, oh my goodness, it was so much. And so my friend was like, all right, be out there after I done told you to leave. We look up, they gone. Now, fast forward to, we go upstairs on the second floor because it was like another game area. And that's also where everybody's rooms were up there. So it was like kind of like a lobby area, had a big screen TV on the wall, more games up there. We're all up there. But two of our friends decided they wanted to go back into the jacuzzi outside. So while they're in the jacuzzi outside, everybody else is upstairs on the second floor having fun and whatever. And we hear them say, oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. So we all run from the second floor all the way down there, run outside. We trying to check on them, like, what's going on? And we see the woman and the man walking from next door. They get to chasing my two friends that were in the jacuzzi, chasing them around. When I say chasing them, I mean watching them chase my friends had us terrified. My friends ran into the house. My one friend that was a police officer ran in there. He got his pum. And they told him, they said, you had no right. And when they said you had no right, it's almost like I couldn't explain it. But right then, right there, I knew that they were not alive. So once I figured that they weren't alive, I was just like, okay. So I told my friends, I'm like, all right, everybody, let's go into the cabin and whatever. Let's just go in the cabin. And a couple of us prayed and stuff. We prayed over the cabin and whatever to keep us protected. We made sure the doors and stuff were locked. I don't know why we did that. Like, the ghosts couldn't just come in. But I already knew what they were the moment, like, the woman said something the way she said it. It was just the way she said it. I just instantly knew. So fast forward to all of us, like, we had a pep talk. They like, okay, everybody make sure y'all doors are locked and whatever. We don't need nobody, getting into y'all room. We just don't want no mishaps. So everybody made sure their doors were locked. We're all around each other upstairs in the second, on the second floor. So if anything happened, we could hear each other. So it's time, it's in the middle of the night. It's time for me to use the bathroom. I go out there to use the bathroom, and it's still on the second floor. So I'm walking towards this window, and then on the left, there's a bathroom there. I walk in there to use the bathroom. I'm done using the bathroom. I walk out. To my left, I could see a man just standing there. And so I looked, and it was my very first time actually saying something to a spirit, because I really don't talk to them. And he told me, we aren't supposed to be here. And so I told him, you ain't supposed to be here. So when I said that, he disappeared. And then all of a sudden, I'm walking like our room was closer to the steps. I'm walking towards my room, towards the steps. And that spirit, that woman, was running up the steps full speed at me. Y'all, when I say I pushed into that door so dang on quick, y'all, we packed up. I told my friends what I saw, and they pretty much were the only ones I had been telling stuff about, seeing spirits and stuff. So they believed me. We packed up. They're like, we're going to cut this trip short. Y'all still get chills thinking about it, because it was the fact that they really chased us out of there. They chased us out of there. And even when we left, the door closed behind us and we did not close the door.
The way I would be so mind blown and confused realizing that these people are not actually people, that I've been interacting with them on multiple occasions and they are actually ghosts. They're not alive. That would probably be one of the craziest things ever. Just realize, coming to that conclusion, I'm like, they're so lifelike that I've been interacting with them and never had a second doubt that they were people. And now I'm realizing that they're not. Crazy. I think that's even crazier than, just a casual run-in and you're like, oh my God, that was a ghost. And you realize that after the fact, the interactions they had with these people, it was intense interactions. And then all of a sudden they're realizing that they're not people. They're not living. And again, with ghosts jeopardizing your safety by unlocking doors and leaving them open. Can we not just stick with one thing to be afraid of? We don't need to add it all up on top of each other and make the situation worse, please. I mean, I'm glad they figured it out and were able to get out of there, because who knows what would have happened. It seemed like they were very angry spirits if they're willing to kind of threaten them and get mad and didn't seem to respect their boundaries. Our next TikTok user, Lala Libra 22. She tells us 2 encounters with monsters she's had.
A story about a time that you know that you saw something, but you don't ever tell this story because you know that no one would ever believe.
So I have 2 stories. 2 stories about something that happened to me that I saw or that I heard, and that I don't think anybody would believe me. And if I wasn't with somebody, I wouldn't have a witness and nobody would believe me either. So both of these things happened up in Westchester County, where I currently live. Now, I'm originally from the Bronx, born and raised. So I'm used to, especially in the night, certain sounds. Living up in the suburbs, the quiet is deafening because it is so quiet, and it's nothing you're not used to. You have to get used to that. It's kind of like a culture shock. So we're in my apartment where I used to live previously, and my son, I want to say he was probably, I don't know, he was a toddler, so maybe 18 months, maybe 2 years old. All of a sudden, he goes, Mommy, there's a monster. Now, we're sitting in the living room, he's playing, we're watching TV. So his father and I are like, Papi, there's no monster, those are just the night noises you hear. Now, that's what we tried to explain to him, so he wouldn't be so he wouldn't be scared of the dark and he wouldn't be scared of the noises. So night noises, and if you know, it's like the sounds of all the insects or the crickets outside, animals scurrying, around foraging for food. Not like the loud music, the voices, the horns, the sirens that you're used to hearing in the city. So we're like, no, Papi, it's just the night noises. So he goes, no, there's a monster. Right after he says that, we hear a low growl. So we're like, what the fuck is that? So my son's father goes to look out the window. Now, in hindsight, why the fuck he did that, I have no idea. Because number 1, not only are we from the fucking hood, but number 2, we watch horror movies. You should fucking know better. So he went to go look out the window. Not me with my scary ass. I stayed right where I was with my son. He goes to look out the window. We're on the 2nd floor. He looks downstairs. All of a sudden, he comes in, slams the door closed. He is pale. His eyes are like a deer caught in headlights. He's like, yo, what the fuck is that? And I'm like, what the fuck is what? And he's like, yo, I don't know what I just saw. All of a sudden, the growling intensifies. And it is not a growl that I have ever heard since then, and a growl that I've never heard before. I don't know what it was. My son's father said he could not explain it. He was like, it wasn't a raccoon, it wasn't an opossum, it definitely wasn't like a deer, or like a wild turkey. Those are the animals we're used to seeing. I was like, maybe it was a bobcat, because every once in a while we get bobcat bobcat sightings in our area. It wasn't any of that. He can't even describe it. All he said was that it was dark, it was like black, and the eyes were like glowing. I was like, all right, yeah, no, we're not fucking doing that. And my son heard this before either one of us did. And I know that they say children have a sixth sense for those things. Not today, Satan. Not then. No. We weren't playing that game. I was like, nah, we're not looking out the window. We're not trying to figure out what it is. We're not going outside to investigate. Fuck whatever is out there. It can stay the fuck out there, and it's not coming into this house. The second time, I was with my son's father again. Now, we had ended up moving back to the Bronx. So I would bring my son to my mom's, and she would sometimes stay with him on the weekends. Again, up in Westchester County. Dropped off my son, whatever, getting back onto the highway. It was the weirdest thing, because to get onto the highway, it's kind of like a curve, right? The entrance ramp is a curve, and then you merge into, into traffic. We didn't say anything. I want to say about a mile or two down the road, he goes, "Did you see that?" And I went, "Oh my God, did you see that?" We both saw the same thing, and we don't know what it was. But entering the highway onto the entrance ramp, in the distance, we saw a shadowy figure. Don't know what it is. To this day, we never figured it out. When we went back to my mom's on Sunday to pick up my son, it was now daylight. When we were leaving, when we saw this shadowy figure, it was like nighttime. So when we went to pick up my son the following day, and it was daylight, take the same route to get home. So we were looking to see if maybe it was a tree, maybe there was like highway construction crew or maintenance crew had like machines or something off to the side. There was nothing there. Nothing there that would have cast that shadow. And it wasn't a shadow like was cast onto the ground. Like it wasn't like the moonlight was casting a shadow through the trees. It was something that was standing upright. And it was a shadowy figure. We don't know to this day. We don't know what it was. We never figured it out. But again, not today, Satan. I didn't do any more investigation than what we did when we got back on the highway the next day to come home. And that was it. But I don't ever, I've never told anybody that story because people will probably think we're fucking crazy and they wouldn't believe us.
Part of me wonders if that's the same thing. I mean, what are the odds that some weird shadow thing appears to them on the highway? Maybe they're just really drawn to seeing strange things like that. Or maybe it is the same thing. And if it is the same thing, I'd be afraid that maybe it was a threat. Like it's coming after my son now that I've dropped him off and I'm away from him or something like that. But it's just so weird that it's kids always claim that there's monsters under their bed or monsters outside or whatever. But the fact that it seems like there potentially was, because there's some growling to back it up that the adults are experiencing as well. And then you have another strange occurrence where you see a shadow man. I feel like after that, I would for sure be kind of saging, meditating, cleansing, just kind of clearing the energy, because I'd be afraid that there's something attached to me. I don't know. It's one thing for a child to claim that there's monsters under their bed or wherever, but then hearing some growling and realizing that might not just be their imagination would be horrifying. Our next TikToks user, Celine Mars, who tells us about a creepy incident she had while babysitting.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first. When I was 8.
So I was babysitting for the first time this little girl. She's 3 years old. And it was going to be at night because her mom works nights. So I'd be with her till 2 a.m. And her mom told me, she's not sleeping lately. I don't know what's going on. She won't go in her room. She won't lay down. Whatever you need to do to get her to sleep, just try. I said, all right, we'll figure it out. So it was late, and there was no sign of her wanting to go in her room. I said, let's go lay down in your room. It was 11. I think 11:30. So let's go lay down in your room. She goes, no. I said, why? And she goes, the baby's crying. And I said, I have no idea. I didn't think anything of it. I thought maybe it was a TV show she was talking about. And I said, no, let's go lay down in your room. So we went in her room and she goes, the baby's crying. And so at this point, I'm like, what baby? What baby? And she pointed up to the ceiling, at the corner of the ceiling, and she said, right there. He's crying. He's sad. She said, I don't want him to cry. And I was like, I am freaked out. So first thing that happened, and I said, okay, let's leave. Let's go to your mom's room. So we went to her mom's room, and she said, the tall man's in here. And I, full body goosebumps. I said, what tall man? Where? And she pointed to her closet, and she goes, he lives there. Tall man. And I said, we're not staying in here. We're going into the living room. So we sat down in the living room, and there's a couch. Behind me is a big window. So I think I had the news on. I don't know what I was watching. She's sitting there, and she stood up and looked behind me and screamed. She screamed, and I was so like, I like thought someone was outside. So I looked. I swear to God, I saw the tallest shadow. It was like a shadow figure, tall. And it looked like it just swooped past the window. And it looked like he was wearing a wide-brimmed hat. And I was so freaked out. And she said, Hat Man, as soon as it happened. Hat Man, Hat Man, Hat. And my instinct is to run outside, but I went outside, so I didn't run outside. And so I honestly think I just stayed in the kitchen. I was like in the kitchen. And I was like, your mom's gonna be home soon. I'm just gonna stay here, okay? And the mom got home, and I was like, yeah, she's not sleeping. I gotta go. I was so scared. So scared. I never went back. They never asked me to come back. I never went back, and they moved shortly after. We lost contact, so I don't know how they're doing. I hope they're okay. But that was the scariest thing that ever happened to me. Talking about it now gives me tears in my eyes because it just freaks me out so bad.
Experiencing a crying baby on the ceiling, a tall man, and a hat man in one night is a pretty big whammy. That's a lot to deal with in a stranger's home when you're responsible for keeping their child safe. I really don't think I'd ever be cut out for babysitting. I mean, not to mention, I don't really have much experience with children at all. I literally have no experience with children. I'm the child of my family, besides my brother. So I have zero experience with babies or children. The day I have kids will be one roller coaster of a life change for me. But I don't think I'd be cut out for babysitting on top of that, because I'd be afraid of being in someone's house at night, a stranger's home, and again, the responsibility of taking care of their child if something creepy happens, whether it be someone breaking in or paranormal. I'm just not cut out for that, truly. So the fact that she kept her cool is miraculous. I don't know, that's so many things going on, like one after another after another. I would be so scared. I would probably be like huddled up on the couch with that kid until her mom came home, because like seriously, what the heck. I think it also is a little bit telling that they moved not too long after. I'm not saying that it has to be because of this, but it kind of makes sense that maybe they did move because there's something going on in the house. Tall man and hat man in one night. Just toss the shadow man in there and we have the trifecta. Our final TikTok of the video is by Mrs. Katie T 0527. She tells us a couple creepy stories that happened at her childhood haunted home.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first.
This is my third attempt at trying to make this video, and either it gets deleted or like the sound doesn't work, like weird glitches are happening. I don't know why. So I'm gonna try this again. So when I moved to Indiana with my family, I was about 8 years old. We moved into a house in a town called Sweetser. And prior to this, like I didn't know that, like, I mean, I believe in ghosts now, but like at the time I didn't think ghosts were real. I thought it was just stuff in movies. Very religious family. So I was always told when you die, you go to heaven or hell, and that's it. So we moved to this house, and it started off with like, I would maybe hear somebody walking around upstairs where me and my brother's rooms were. I would see like shadows moving on the wall. As I got older,
I always heard a child crying in the this one specific corner of my bedroom, like on the opposite side of where my bed was at. Every night I would hear a child crying. I would turn my music up all the way up as loud as it would go because I knew I was going to hear it, and it always scared me. But I think two of the more disturbing things that happened at this house actually happened to my little brother, and then after that, my dad. It was a lot more intense than anything I had experienced in terms of that sort of thing. So one night I was staying the night with my grandparents. They lived in the same town, just like on the other side of town, and my parents knew that I was going. Like, it had already been planned that I was going to stay with them that weekend, and my brother was going to stay at home because he was younger than me, and we just, you know, siblings sometimes need space from each other, I guess. So my parents are in the room, which is on the ground floor of the house on the opposite side of where the staircase was that led up to me and my brother's room. And so they're in their bedroom, they're watching TV, whatever. They hear my brother start yelling from upstairs, and they're, you know, wondering maybe he's playing. Is he being really loud? What's going on? So he busts into my parents' bedroom, and he's crying, he's yelling, he's like really upset. And he says, "Katie won't stop trying to scare me. Can you please tell her to leave me alone?" Now, my parents know that I'm not home, so they kind of look at each other, and they look at my brother, and they're like, "What do you mean Katie's trying to scare you? Like, what do you mean by that?" Because they didn't want to tell him I wasn't home, because they wanted to hear what he had to say first, so they didn't freak him out. And he said, "Katie keeps coming into the hallway with her blanket over her head, and she keeps staring at me. And every time I tell her to stop, she just keeps staring. And then she'll walk back into her bedroom, she'll come back out, and she'll just keep staring." And this freaked my parents out, because up until this point, I was the one that spoke up about it the most. Sometimes my brother would say things, but we were always told it was our imagination, that we were seeing things, hearing things, whatever. So this did freak him out, and my dad told me about it when I came home, and of course I was like, "Why would you tell me that? I sleep in that room." So then fast forward, keep in mind that my brother saw my face, me. So fast forward to a few years from now, we're about to move out of this house. I think this was in like maybe the last month that we lived there that this happened. So my brother was sleeping in my room with me because he always said he was terrified of stuff in his closet. He heard things in his closet, which that's creepy enough as it is. So he would sleep in my room sometimes. And we're like 12, I'm 12 and he's like 9 at this point, I think. So my dad is downstairs, we're upstairs asleep, my mom is at work, my dad's sitting at the computer in the living room, and he feels like a tap on his shoulder, and he hears my voice say, "Hey, Dad." And he turns around, he's like, "Yeah, what's up?" Didn't think anything of it. And he turns around, there's nothing there. Immediately, the same second that he turns around and acknowledges what he thought was me, my dogs, I had 2 big dogs at the time, they freak out, they start barking, the fur on their spine is standing up about this much. They take off to one side of the room, they both look up at the ceiling, and then my dad said it was the freakiest thing, perfectly in sync. Their heads start moving. They see something, and then they go to the other wall, and they stare, and their heads are moving in sync. And then my door slams shut upstairs. So my dad books it up the stairs, see what's going on, like he's freaked out. He goes upstairs, he opens my bedroom door. My brother and I are both just sleeping. We had like a little mini DVD player thing on to watch movies, because again, we didn't like when it was quiet at night, because that's when you hear things. So he takes one of my boxes of stuff that was packed up for the move, he puts it in front of the door, and he goes back downstairs. The second that he is off the stairs and back on the ground floor, my door slams shut again. He goes right back upstairs, opens my door. My brother and I are still sound asleep, and the box of stuff that he put in front of the door is on the opposite side of the room, spilled over. So he's really freaked out now. He calls my mom. He's like, "When are you coming home? Like, this is what's going on. I'm scared." And I don't think he actually told us about it until later. And to this day, I mean, this was like, gosh, I don't even know, like almost like 15, 16 years ago, maybe. And my brother doesn't remember anything. Like, anytime I bring it up, we talk about the creepy things that happen. Like, my dad remembers, my mom remembers, my brother's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." It's like he completely blocked it out. But I think what sounds unbelievable like when I talk to people about this is like, I was young, my brother was young, they're like, maybe it was your imagination, maybe you were like processing trauma and, you know, whatever. But what makes me question it now is like, my brother saw my face, my dad heard my voice, and the more I learn about different supernatural things, the more it freaks me out because of, you know, mimics. And yeah, so it just freaks me out. Once we moved out of the house, nothing happened at our new house. Nothing's really happened actually to any of us since then. The house I live in now, sometimes I think I see stuff out of the corner of my eye. I might see shadows move around, but nothing that makes me feel unsafe. Nothing that seems to have like a negative presence, so I don't really think anything of it. But yeah, that to this day, anytime I think about that house, it gives me chills. And I don't know, I think I try to talk about it to people I trust, but people kind of look at me like I'm crazy, so I'm intrigued to see what you guys think about it.
The blanket thing, oh my god, that has to be one of the creepiest things I've ever heard. From the way she says it towards the very end of her telling the story, it sounds like she says that the thing had her face. Like, it wasn't just a figure underneath a sheet, like a stereotypical ghost, but like under her blanket where you couldn't see the face. She said something that made it sound like it had her face. Like the face was sticking out and it looked like her. If possible, makes this even more frightening. That not only is it some figure that's pretending to be her with her blanket, sheet ghost style, but is mimicking her face as well. I don't know what I would do if I was those parents and I heard that. My daughter's not home, yet my son's seeing my daughter, trying to freak him out. I don't know, my stomach would just drop. I would be freaking out. And then having to remain calm to keep your child calm, that's like a massive task. Like, that's not great at all. But then there's something, again, apparently mimicking her, to have her voice tap her dad on the shoulder and say, "Hey dad," when it's not her. When she's upstairs, napping with her brother. The fact that the door slams, not once but twice, and a box apparently goes across the room and they're still sound asleep is crazy to me. But it's one thing the door slams the first time. Obviously unexplainable that it's, you know, nothing is tapping him on the shoulder and has his daughter's voice. But the door slamming in itself, like, I could maybe, like, if I were him, I could write that off as maybe she woke up from a nap briefly, closed the door a little aggressively, and went back to the nap. You know, because I didn't see it. It's not improbable. But putting the box in front of the door, realizing she's sound asleep, like, what are the odds that she's going to get up again, move the box, slam the door, and then get back into bed again? After the weird mimic voice experience. Like, that's crazy. The box is in front of the door to keep it open. The box moves out of the way, the door slams a second time. So crazy. None of that screams good entity to me. It screams the exact opposite, quite frankly. So I'm glad that they weren't there for long, and I'm glad that this horrifying thing happened, like, just before they moved, and that they didn't have to deal with it much longer. But, like, what the heck? I genuinely think that these two occurrences are, I don't know, I can't really categorize it, but, you know, so I'm not gonna say, like, top 10 or something like that, but very high up there on craziest things I've ever heard, like, paranormal-wise. So, really thoroughly enthralled by this specific TikTok. Anyway, that is all I have for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what your favorite story was, any thoughts you had on any of these TikToks. As always, feel free to tag me in any that you come across. I am going through my mentions this week and doing a big batch of saving those and doing a video solely of TikToks that you guys have tagged me in, because I've gotten a little bit behind on checking on those. So be sure to tag me in anything you come across that you'd like to see me include in my next couple videos. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. I will pop a couple of video suggestions on the screen for you to check out another one. Please click the subscribe button down below and turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. I post every Sunday and sometimes Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m. Central Time. Check out my Instagram and TikTok for special effects makeup looks. And other than that, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Bye.